Hello, I'm Middlesex County Freeholder Director Ron Rios. Welcome to Spotlight on Middlesex County, one of the best sources for news and updates on all that's happening here in the county. Today we're going to discuss a topic close to my heart, pancreatic cancer. In 1995, I lost my mother to this disease and have since met many families who have had similar experiences. The pancreas is a gland that helps to make enzymes for food digestion. According to the American Cancer Society, 49,000 U.S. residents are expected to be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year. About 40,500 people are expected to die from the disease, including 1,200 in New Jersey this year alone. The 5-year survival rate is only about 7% for all stages combined. In 2009, at my suggestion, the county began the annual Pancreatic Cancer Walk to increase awareness and raise research dollars to fight this silent killer. Each year, the event has grown, and so far, it has raised more than $84,000 for the Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey to further research. This year, we are excited to announce the addition of a 5K race. Participants may choose to run or walk the certified course and have fun while raising money for a good cause. Health screenings, music, games, and other activities will be available for the whole family. Come as an individual, a family, or put a team together. With me today is Congressman Frank Pallone, Jr., a great friend of mine and a great friend of Middlesex County. Congressman Pallone is the new ranking member on the Energy and Commerce Committee, which will have an impact on doctors and patients here in the county. We're also joined by Dr. Edmund Lattime. Dr. Lattime is a researcher and associate director for education and training at Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey. He is also a professor of surgery at Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. Dr. Lattime is involved in research exploring new treatments for pancreatic cancer. We will discuss their experiences with pancreatic cancer and the strides made in medical research to combat the disease. Well, I'd like to thank both of you for joining me here today. It really is a pleasure. And Congressman, you have been a strong supporter of our efforts to raise awareness of pancreatic cancer. And I understand that you too had a personal experience with pancreatic cancer, that you lost your mom.
I did a few years ago, and I was it's a little tough because her birthday is March 30th, which is around this time of year. So it's the time of year when I think about it. But I really appreciate the fact, Ron, that you are bringing attention to this, because I think it's so important. You know, a lot of people are not aware of pancreatic cancer. There isn't that much research that's done. And when you have this walk every year to raise awareness and raise funds to help the Cancer Institute with research, that couldn't be more important to me and to the memory of your mother as well as my mother. So thank you so much for what you do, really.
Thank you, thank you. As I mentioned, your new position as ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee will impact doctors and patients. Can you explain a little bit to our audience how it will?
Well, our committee has a health subcommittee. It's one of the areas that we deal with. And I, of course, have been the chairman and the ranking member of that health subcommittee for about 8 years. But now I'm the ranking member of the full committee that deals with a lot of other things as well as health, energy, environment, telecommunications, the internet, a lot of things. But the bottom line is that it puts me in a better position to help for some of the things that you care about. In other words, you know, we want to make sure that NIH, the National Institute of Health, gets more money. One of the things that I've been asking, I put together with a bunch of congressmen a letter to our appropriators to try to see if we can get an additional $800 million, an increase in funding for NIH. And NIH is really a major, if not the major source of income for Rutgers as well as the Cancer Institute. So we need more money for research. That's one of the things that hopefully I'll be involved with. We're also doing an initiative called the 21st Century Cures, which tries to deal with cures for rare diseases. I don't know if I'd characterize pancreatic cancer as rare, because it actually isn't. It's actually one of the most common forms of cancer. But the difference is that unlike unlike some of the other cancers, there hasn't been a lot of progress in trying to find cures. So hopefully we'll be playing a major role in trying to help with that too.
Is there any other way, or why else supporting NIH would be, or any other research agency, is so important to the work that you do in Congress?
Well, I could talk forever about 21st century cures, and maybe we'll get back to it. But that initiative not only involves trying to get more money for NIH, but also trying to do things like have more clinical trials, making people aware that the clinical trials exist. Frankly, even when my mother, when we found out it was diagnosed that she had pancreatic cancer, I wasn't really aware of what clinical trials were available. We found out eventually she had already passed away. And also different types of drug treatment. For example, there's a need, I think, for to bring drugs to the market quicker. The process right now whereby drugs are brought to the market or made available, I think could be expedited, which is important if you're dealing, when you, one thing about pancreatic cancer is you often don't diagnose it until it's very late. Right. And so if you could find some treatments that, that were available quicker, that would certainly be helpful. And also to provide more incentives. One of the things that we find is that drug companies, will not invest themselves in research for new drugs or new cures. Oftentimes, if they don't think that a lot of progress has been made, they want to make those investments in things that are actually going to, help them make money. Right. And so, we could also help them with tax incentives or with, some kinds of subsidies for some of these diseases where there hasn't been a lot of progress in terms of cures. Wow.
Dr. Lattime, in his State of the Union address, President Obama outlined a precision medicine research effort with $70 million being earmarked specifically for cancer. Is that type of work being done at the Rutgers Cancer Institute?
Yes, it is, and it's really changing the way that we treat cancer. Historically, and up until not long ago, one would treat cancer solely based on the kind of cancer or the stage of cancer. One type of breast cancer, another stage of breast cancer, one type of prostate cancer. Now what precision medicine allows us to do is to actually sample the cancer, have a wide screen done genetically on what's driving that cancer. Frequently, there are multiple mutations that can drive tumors. So now we can identify the specific mutation that's driving the specific tumor. We then take that genomic data to our group of investigators, which includes the clinical group as well as the research group, and look at how that mutation is driving the cancer, and also look for specific drugs. Now there are new targeted agents that we can match to the tumor driver genetic mutation as opposed to used for a particular kind of cancer.
So we can see results from your research right here with what you're doing right here with pancreatic cancer.
We're looking at pancreatic cancer patients using this new technology, and we're finding important new potential treatments and potential targets to treat.
Wow. The Cancer Institute has been making advances with a vaccine treatment for pancreatic cancer that is directly injected into the pancreas tumor. And I understand that the funds raised from our annual walk have supported this effort. Where does that work stand right now, and what can we hope for in the future?
This stems from basic science research funded by the National Institute of Health that allowed us to identify what was happening in the tumor itself, and leading to the finding that if we gave a vaccine into the tumor, it would potentially be more effective. We then moved rapidly to a clinical trial, and we treated 14 patients. And what we found in an encouraging way is that patients who did not have metastatic disease visible in the liver, did not develop that disease. Now, unfortunately, because of the aggressiveness of pancreas cancer, the patients succumbed to the disease, but it did change the biology, and it changed the way the tumor was manifesting. Regarding the funds from the walk over several years really were instrumental in allowing us to do this clinical trial. This was the first time anyone had put a virus like this into a pancreas, and a lot of questions were asked that would lead to our ability to go further. Would it cause side effects in its own right? And we were able to use the funds to build in additional testing to determine if it caused side effects. The other aspect of what we were doing that it enabled us to do is we were able to take very small biopsies and expected to only be able to look at one marker or two markers to see what was happening. Because of the funds, we were able to use new genetic technology and look at thousands of markers. And in doing that, we've now identified activated pathways that can affect the immune response and how it reacts to the cancer. And we're using that information to go back and design the next trial.
That's very interesting. It is. And, you know, you talk about the funds, how they have, from the walk that we have, and now with our 5K run, how it's able to go into different areas of pancreatic cancer and research and also the trials as well. And, you know, laymen like myself, sometimes people think that, you know, a minimal amount of money that is raised or a donation that is made may not have an impact on the research or the trials, but it does.
It has a huge impact.
I wanted to ask, you know, I remember with my mom again that the biggest problem was difficulty of diagnosis until it's very late stage. Like they told us that the only reason they were actually able to determine that she had it was because she became jaundiced, and the tumor was pushing, I guess, on her bile ducts, and that's oftentimes the way they find that people have pancreatic cancer, but then oftentimes it's very late. Is there anything that's being done, I'm not necessarily at the New Jersey Cancer Institute, about early diagnosis? Because that seems to be so important. But I don't know if that's a research component or not.
It is in part. You're absolutely right. The early symptoms of pancreas cancer are indigestion. Yeah. And it's not infrequently until there's something like pressing on the bile duct and the like. The other piece, which is critical, is that despite when it's found, even when it's found and operable, cells may have already gone to the liver and be sitting there. So even in some cases with a successful operation, the cells have already spread and you don't know it.
And that's why that vaccine is so important.
What we're trying to do, if it follows what we believe has happened, is if we can induce an immune response, and we're studying that now, to eliminate those cells sitting in the liver. Yeah. They didn't grow in our case. Then, by going to an earlier stage of disease, we may be able to have a positive effect on the spreading.
You mentioned the genetic aspect, which I know there's so much happening now with, you know, genetics and dealing with that, not just in this area, or not even just cancer in general, but just with cures in general. I remember that when we went to the hospital, that they put us in a bank, because they had said that maybe 10 or I think it was like 11% of the cases they think might be genetic. But they don't really know how much, you know, of a genetic aspect there is to it. Is there any more information about that? Because I know I was put in that bank along with my brother.
There is a form or one pancreas cancer that's familial, and President Jimmy Carter, if you recall, his family had that. We collect tissue and blood from all of our patients now, both for the ability to look for the genetic basis of the tumor now, but to have the information, they have that material. So down the road, when new tests are developed and new ways of looking at the tumor are developed, the material's there. And we collect the patient information and the treatment response to tie it all together.
But what you were talking about from a genetic point of view was more in terms of mutations, huh? That you can actually induce the mutations, which takes away from the genetics in a way, doesn't it, or not?
Yes, and most are not familial, most are not genetic in that sense.
Yeah.
The genetic mutations may allow us to target therapy and also study the etiology or where the tumor comes from.
Interesting.
Congressman, getting back to the federal level, in addition to the medical research being done at NIH, what other work has the Energy and Commerce Committee done to support the goals of developing new treatments and getting them in the hands of patients who need them?
Well, I mentioned this 21st Century Cures initiative, Ron, and it's actually a bill that we're drafting now, and it's bipartisan, I should say, which is nice. And we went around the country and had forums, talking about the problem. A lot of it came from the fact that that certain diseases haven't really had a lot of attention, either in developing new drugs or in medical research. I don't have the statistics, but even though pancreatic cancer is a significant killer, in terms of, I think it ranks, like third or fourth or something like that?
It's one of the top lethal diseases.
It's one of the top lethal diseases. You look at the percentage of the research that's been done, funded by the federal government, is not very significant.
It's minimal. Yeah,
right.
it is.
And so the idea is to try to find some of these diseases that haven't gotten a lot of attention and see if there's some way to incentivize either the private industry to come up with cures and do more trials, or get more money for federal research. I don't want to just talk about the funding at the federal level, because I know that's part of it, but part of it also is developing cures, vaccines, these types of things. And a lot of times, that money comes from the private sector, and it's also the way that FDA reviews these things so that it doesn't take forever.
Mm-hmm. And how does that work fit in what was accomplished by the Affordable Care Act?
Well, the Affordable Care Act is also a funding source for a lot of new innovative ideas. Hospitals, research centers, anybody who's really a healthcare provider can apply for funding or grants that would also be innovative. So it's a source of funding as well for innovation and new drugs, new techniques, research as well.
And how's the Affordable Care Act impacting the cancer community right here in New Jersey?
Well, I think one of the most important things is insurance. In other words, as you know, the main purpose of the Affordable Care Act, some people call it Obamacare. I know
right.
You didn't use that term, but the president says, the president uses it, so it's okay, is to cover everyone. And in the past, if people had cancer or had a pre-existing condition where they, where they developed cancer, and maybe they had an operation, or they had, it was known, they would have a hard time getting insurance because the price would be jacked up. And now you can't charge anymore because of a pre-existing condition. So if somebody wants to go on the exchange now and buy insurance, they can't be charged more because they have a pre-existing condition like cancer. And it's obviously very important, if you have had cancer and you need to continue to have treatment, to have good insurance.
It's devastating emotionally to get the word that you're diagnosed with cancer, and then to be put in that position where you're told, or were told, that you can't be covered because you have a pre-existing condition. That has to be devastating as well.
The other thing that existed, which was abolished with the Affordable Care Act, are lifetime or annual caps. Like sometimes you could buy the insurance policy, but it would have an annual cap on how much insurance would be covered, or a lifetime cap. And of course, if you're a cancer patient and you have had all the expensive operations or other type of treatment, you could reach that cap on an annual basis or a lifetime cap very quickly. That's all now ended and as considered a discriminatory practice that you can't be sold an insurance policy with a lifetime cap or an annual cap.
Wow. Dr. Lattime, as a researcher at Rutgers Cancer Institute. Can you tell us what the Institute's designation as the state's only comprehensive cancer center by the National Cancer Institute means for patients and the state as well?
The NCI designation as a comprehensive cancer center is incredibly important to us and to the state. It allows for a number of things. It's given based on every 5-year review demonstrating outstanding basic science, clinical care, and clinical research and population outreach. What it does is it funds a significant amount of infrastructure that allows us to bring new technologies to bear. And in addition, it gives us an opportunity to work further with the National Cancer Institute to develop early-stage clinical trials and have the latest new drugs. As an example, it gave us an opportunity to apply for a large NCI grant called a UM1. There's a number for everything. That allowed us, with a partner of the University of Wisconsin, to receive additional funds and give us access to some of the newest agents that were under study in clinical trials, only available through the National Cancer Institute. And so it means a lot for patients in that it has broadened our ability to have clinical trials with new agents. It means a lot to the researchers in that it gives infrastructure assets that allow us to have the highest technology in our research, and indirectly then to pass that knowledge down to the way we treat cancer.
How can people learn more about pancreatic cancer clinical trials and research taking place at the Rutgers Cancer Institute?
They can go to our website. It is www.cinj.org.
And you mentioned how you were involved with the University of Wisconsin. It's so important to be able to network and to partnerships. Mm-hmm. I've always advocated for partnerships, whether it's governmentally or in the business world, that how we can do things more efficiently and broaden our horizons. Mm-hmm. And it's important to hear that.
You know, Ron, the other thing I don't know, I wish I had brought it with me, but I remember with my mom that there was a website, the Pancreatic Cancer Network or something, and that was how we found out about, I mean, of course I knew about Robert Wood Johnson because it's right here, but I remember going on that website and they specifically mentioned Robert Wood, you know, as one of the places that had treatment and, you know, innovative programs, which I guess were linked to the Cancer Institute. And then, you know, you were able to find out other places around the country as well. So,
yeah.
But I don't know if it was called, I think it was called Pancreatic.
There are a number of websites such as that.
Yeah, there's a number of organizations mm-hmm. that have pancreatic cancer walks or fundraisers.
Yeah.
And actually, they come and support our walk as well.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's times that we try to encourage people going to their walks, regardless of where it is in the state, or, you know, as long as it's going for that same goal, let's
right.
say, it's important. And what's interesting is that when we have our walks, unfortunately, sometimes there's people that come there that they lost a family member, and then they come, and then we have one individual that comes, and he's been there with us for 7 years, that he's suffering from pancreatic cancer, and he's a survivor and a strong survivor.
You want to tell us about the purple?
Purple is the color for pancreatic cancer.
And do you know why? Because I don't.
At this time, the Middlesex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, the Chronic Disease Coalition of Middlesex and Union Counties, and the Edison Municipal Alliance are sponsoring the Pancreatic Cancer 5K Run Walk on May 30th this year. My team, walking in memory of my mother, will be there. I ask that you join us at the walk to aid in the research efforts we just discussed. Come out for the 5K event at Johnson Park in Piscataway from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturday, May 30th. For the competitors among us, this is a certified 5K course. Registration for the 5K is $25 per participant. For the walk, registration is $15 per person. Donations are encouraged. From 2009 through 2014, Middlesex County raised about $84,000 to benefit pancreatic cancer research at the Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey, located in New Brunswick. Donations from our events have gone toward research and clinical trials testing new treatment methods for patients. The benefit of these trials is to increase the advancement and effectiveness of treatment. It's my hope that you'll be inspired by our discussion to join our event in Johnson Park in Piscataway. Bring your family, ask your friends to come along, and form a team. It's one of the most personal ways to let your loved ones know that they have your support. There will also be a softball tournament for the cause held on Saturday, May 9th at the county's Warren Park in Woodbridge. The tournament will start as early as 9 a.m. Call 732-745-3900 and ask for Erin or Tracy to register your team. For those who have supported the walk in previous years, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to help us in becoming advocates for this cause. The more we learn about how to treat pancreatic cancer, the more people we can save from this devastating disease. Together, we can make a difference. I wish to thank Congressman Frank Pallone and Dr. Edmund Lattime for joining me today for this important discussion and for their commitment to the health and well-being of the people of Middlesex County. Thank you for watching this month's edition of Spotlight on Middlesex County.